Good evening, Shortcuts. Stephen here. I'm feeling very rock and roll with my cup of tea. I've been preparing a couple of lists. Price list will go out at 9 p.m. on Wednesday, the 25th, as normal. This first list is a predominantly Aussie press list, although there is one US first press and one Japanese first press. And both of those are rather great in their own way. I'll leave it at that. I was thinking about this particular list and about how I would frame some of the records that are here. And it occurred to me that, let's call it the CD age, striking in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. And the CD that everyone had to buy, it was like the CD de rigueur, the one that you just had to have, I think, was Brothers in Arms, Dire Straits. And since there's been a resurgence in love for black gold, or vinyl as we like to call it here on Shortcuts, there's two, I think, that have supplanted Brothers in Arms. Bowie's going to come over and say hello. Do you agree, Bowie? Oh, Bowie's come to say hello. What do you think, Bowie? Are you going to agree with me? The two records that I think have supplanted Brothers in Arms have some similarities. There are these two records. Tracy Chapman's debut album, I think it's 1987 or 1988. And Rodriguez's, I think it was his debut or his second? Anyway, Cold Fact and Tracy Chapman. Let's talk about Tracy Chapman first. Well, why have these records become kind of not quite as pervasive as having to own Brothers in Arms, but it's up there. Maybe Chapman more than Rodriguez. Part of the reason that people want this record is because it sounds incredible. Every pressing. I have a US pressing. I have an Aussie, this one. We'll have it much longer, I hope. They both sound magnificent. I can't tell a difference. The pressing quality for this particular record, and I don't know if it was recorded digitally or not, the acoustic tones, the absolute, the beauty with which she manipulates her microphone, the way she phrases her singing, it's effortless and perfect. I read a while back that Fast Car, which was her breakthrough song, the record begins with talking about revolution and quickly moves on to Fast Car. Rolling Stone had its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time from a few years back, and Fast Car was the highest female entry. That first side, talking about a revolution, Fast Car, Cross the Lines, Behind the Wall, and Baby Can I Hold You. What a song to finish a side. Oh my God. I think it's slightly better than side two, but side two is still great. Anyway, this record is in immaculate condition. It's as good as you're ever going to find. The inner is perfect, and the vinyl is wonderful. You all out there know you can trust me. What's harder to find in such good condition is this record. Sixto Rodriguez, what a story. I mean, he was basically. I mean, where do you start with his story? Mexico, Australia, South Africa. All we know is that in the late 70s, Rodriguez was able to tour arenas in Australia whilst he was playing dingy clubs everywhere in the world apart from South Africa, where the directness of the lyrics and the forthright points of view, I think, appealed to those that apartheid state. It is a political record. It is a wonderful record. I mean, Sugar Man, we all know what it kind of this kind of psycho hazy folk. This acoustic guitar isn't particularly well recorded, but sounds incredible. Leading on to Only Good for Conversation, leading on to Crucify Your Mind. And then the fourth song. This is not a song, it's an outburst, or the establishment blues. The mayor hides the crime rate, councilwoman hesitates, public gets irate, but forget the vote date. Yeah, I mean, Hate Street Dialogue, I Wonder is basically a list song. I wonder how many times you've been had. I wonder how many plans have gone bad. I wonder how many times you've had sex. I wonder, do you know who'll be next? That subversiveness, I think, is part of the appeal. And of course, we all know the documentary and how his life was turned around. This particular pressing, there were two pressings in 1978. This is the alternative pressing. It doesn't have, there's a few subtle differences. This one's a little bit rarer. It's in fantastic condition. This sleeve is usually covered in laminate wrinkles because the alternative label version of the one I just had a kind of laminate cover. This one, this pressing didn't. It was released at the same time, from what I can tell. Both released in 1978. But because this is kind of, I don't know, it avoided the really kind of quite horrible laminate wrinkling. This is as good a copy as you'll ever see. I don't know. You tell me, what's the album that you have to have? In the same way that you had to have Brothers in Arms. In Australia, I think those two records are up there. I've got two records to come by bands that begin with the letter C. One is quite possibly my favourite Australian band and quite possibly my favourite of their records, although there are three that on any given day could rule the roost. And similarly, there are three of the other band, which is a British kind of new wave band. You'll know them both. I'm very, very excited about these two records, though. The first I'm going to talk about, though, is The Church, Heyday. I first discovered The Church because David Frick, who was the editor of Rolling Stone, not the Australian kind of recent Rolling Stone, the American Rolling Stone, he wrote this article. It was published in Ireland and the UK about this Australian band called The Church, which he absolutely loved. And when Melissa and I moved here in 2003, we were living in an apartment in Tamarama. Water came in through the windows. It was a pretty dingy place in a rather spectacular building, but a dingy apartment. We had no bed, we had no nothing. And on the Saturday night, we had a TV and we had a mattress on the floor. We were lying on the floor and Rage came on, which we'd never heard of. And the first video it played was this song called Under the Milky Way. And we were both like, it's become our Australian song. It is incredible. And it allowed me the opportunity to delve into the back catalogue. And this, Blurred Crusade, and Starfish, I think, are the three that vie for a position that means that these are, I think, three of the greatest records in Australian recorded history. I think they're that good. I mean, Blurred Crusade was, I think, their second, and it was incredible. This copy, I just checked my sleeves. I don't know how I've done this, but I have two practically near mint copies. And this is one of them. And hopefully it will go to a new home. This record is maybe a little bit different to Starfish. Starfish more song-oriented, which of course has Under the Milky Way. But this record has a vibe to it. It has, partly maybe because Steve Kilbey describes how the band kind of took over songwriting duties on this record. It wasn't just him in his 8-track trying to figure it all out. And so I think you hear togetherness and it hasn't aged, and it doesn't sound like an 80s record. It's almost like some of the Smiths records. If they were released today, they would still sound contemporary. You get bands like Rolling Blackouts, Coastal Thunder in Melbourne, who are trying to make records that sound like the Church or like the Smiths, and they still work. And it's a beautiful sleeve too. Just an immaculate record. Tristesse and Tantalized being really special. And the other band beginning with C. This record too. The Cure. Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. This is my favourite Cure album. And I was trying to figure out why do I think it's better than, personally think it's better than Disintegration or some of the earlier kind of more doomy things like Faith. I think the early Cure records, for me personally, at times verge on the unlistenable. They're so dour and so lacking in songcraft on occasion that because I know what comes, when I listen to that, I think this is a band who haven't figured it out. But I guess if you were a fan from that era and you were brought up through Pornography and Faith and those records, it would make sense. But when I think of The Cure, I'm thinking of pure pop perfection. I'm not thinking of dour slogs that trudge along for 78 minutes without seeming to go anywhere. And I know, I understand people love those early records, but I don't understand, genuinely mystify me as to why. Whereas this record, oh my God, this is a double album. It kind of captures a band who figured themselves out. You've got Just Like Heaven. If there's ever been a better single than Just Like Heaven, I don't know what it is. And that's not the only great song for this double album. You've got Catch, which I think Catch could well be the most beautiful love song that Robert Smith and the band ever wrote. And they wrote some amazing ones. Why Can't I Be You? Another classic. I do agree that side 4 kind of falls off the perch a little bit. But in terms of pure enjoyment and songcraft, and another record that is timeless, the production here is amazing. It sounds great on vinyl. I think it's the best. I mean, Disintegration, I think, brings back some of that gloominess that I think overpowers it for me. Whereas this is a great record. I've got a few more great records to come, albeit wildly different. I love this album. Wild and Peaceful, Kool and the Gang. I think it's their third or their fourth record. This is the record that became kind of commercially successful for them on D-Light Records. This is the US first press. Very bass heavy. Not the most perfect record in the world. It's got a bit of noise here and there, but it's amazing. This sleeve is fantastic. And there they all are. And of course, everyone's eyes are drawn to Jungle Boogie, which was an absolute highlight of Reservoir Dogs soundtrack and the movie. I've got an amazing Reservoir Dogs story. At some point, maybe we'll have time to talk about it. But Wild and Peaceful is a great name for a record that delivers funk. The first song, funky stuff, and the second song, more funky stuff. That's amazing. I love it. And the final 9.5 minute title track, Wild and Peaceful, my gosh. Look at those guys. This guy even calls himself Funky George. And there's Cool looking very young back in the day. That's a great album. I just realized there's another band beginning with C coming, but I'm gonna talk about this. This is the one Japanese record that is in the mix, but you'll understand why I've put it in this particular bundle. I do love it when I get sent Japanese first presses of fairly well-known and easy to get Aussie records. This particular band were, other than AC/DC, maybe, John, maybe Australia's greatest export in the 70s. This is the Little River Band. They were really popular in the US, really popular, like top 10 hits, and particularly this record. Diamantina Cocktail, Glenn Shorrock and the Boys. This record is mint. It's never been played. It is like it came out of the factory yesterday, and it is the Japanese first press. It's amazing. Yeah, a really cool thing. And of course, this record, I think it went top 10 in the US. I don't think it got to number 1, but not far off. I mean, they're probably better than the Eagles, eh? Probably. And I got a few more to go. I'm sorry this is taking some time. Actually, you know what? There's some more Aussie records here. I'm going to prioritize those just because. So, what we've got here is No Exit. I think arguably the Angels' best record. Certainly, I think they're most consistent. I'm not a massive fan, but this is the one that I reach for. This is the gatefold first press. The vinyl is really, really good. Really good. And yeah, I think someone will love this more than me. Really nice copy. And there's a really fun 12-inch with it as well. This is the 12-inch that was released off the back of their double live album, Live Line. And this is the 12-inch of Am I Ever Gonna See Your Face Again, which is arguably their greatest track. Certainly one of the funnest live Australian tracks of all time. For those of you who are interested, side 2 is Marseille and a song called Shoot It Up. It's kind of interesting. So there you go. Another Aussie little known beat combo called Midnight Oil. I know there was an absolute avalanche of people interested in the last copy of Diesel and Dust I had. This one's equally as good. Yeah, Diesel and Dust, classic. And I got 4 more to go. Where am I going to start? I'm going to start with this. We had The Cure. We had The Church. Now we've got The Clash. This is their second album, Give 'Em Enough Rope. This is the first record to feature Topper Headon on drums. The production quality has just absolutely blown up off the Rough and Ready self-titled record. English Civil War, Tommy Gunn, Guns on the Roof, probably my favourite. All the Young Punks, New Boots and Contracts. Yeah, All songs arranged and performed by The Clash. This is a beautiful Aussie first press in fantastic condition. I know there are a bunch of Clash fans out there. Yeah, I'm interested. We all know how amazing London Calling is, but once you kind of get by London Calling, what is the next best Clash record? Actually, you know what? I'm going to sneak something in here. I wasn't planning to show you this, but I'm going to. I am really not sure what to do with this. This is an outrageous thing. Came in the box earlier, and I have not figured out what I'm going to do with it. What is it? See the way it says sample on the back? This is the Japanese mint unplayed first press promo of The Clash, Cut the Crap. And look at, you see under, let me see if I can do this without breaking anything. Just here, do you see those three symbols? That says not for resale in Japanese. Yeah, a Japanese mint, never played before, first press promo of The Clash's Cut the Crap. Yeah, they charged me quite a bit for it, so I'm really not sure what to do. Sometimes when there are, for those of you who understand how this works, I get a box of records and it's often a blind box. I don't know what's in it. And I open it up and I make these videos. And sometimes I get sent something that's stupendously expensive. And I have the option to send it back. And I'm really not sure what to do with that one. Because, they charge me like a lot. Which means that to sell it, I would probably have to charge $90 or $100. And I know that's a lot for you folks. So I'm really not sure what to do. But it is a wonderful thing. All right, we've got 3 more to go. These 3 are on the list. Although if someone wants to talk to me about that one, you drop me a line. This is Poison. Open up and say, ah. When it comes to kind of glam rock records, I reckon this one's right up there. Got the Inner. It's just a fun blast of rock and roll. Another Aussie first press that someone else will love more than me. 2 more to go. For those of you who've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that this band isn't my favourite. The Doors. Waiting for the Sun. Their second record. This is a very early Aussie press on the Elektra label. Really nice vinyl. I don't love this band, but this record has my favourite Doors song. And you won't guess what it is. It is not, hello, I love you, won't you tell me your name? It isn't The Unknown Soldier, or Spanish Caravan, which are practically unlistenable. It is Love Street. Love Street's the second track, 3 minutes of Jim Morrison whimsy that I actually can tolerate and even kind of love. It's got this really cool keyboard melody. It's as far away from the pretension that he typically has. It isn't that kind of blues womp of LA Woman or the psychedelic kind of mishmash that is Riders on the Storm. It's a whimsical and lovely little ditty that I really like. So there you have Waiting for the Sun. I think their best record sleeve too. And then finally we have the Aussie first press gatefold of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Bloody Black Sabbath. Their 5th record. Their first to get commercial, mainstream, positive reviews. I remember a long time ago reading through some of the reviews of their records in Rolling Stone, and this was the first record that got a glowing Rolling Stone review. I loved it. They said it was practically perfect. And then I loved Guns N' Roses when I was a kid, like every other teenager. I went to see them, and I remember reading interviews with Slash, and he talked about this song, the title track, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and how amazing the guitar was. So I was kind of aware of it, but I've only got to love Black Sabbath as I've kind of got older. Incredible band. That sleeve, look more closely at that sleeve if you get a chance at some point. It's pretty out there. Oh my gosh, 25 minutes. Gosh, I've been talking that long. Anyway, there's list one. Yeah, please leave a comment. Tell me if you like this or not. If you don't like it, tell me why. Let me know if you found the selection interesting. I can tell you now, the Japanese selection that's coming has got some interesting things as well. All right. Thank you so much for watching if you stayed this long, and looking forward to speaking to some of you on Wednesday. I'm going to post some packages this week too. Thanks a lot.